Jimmy O'Brien's boots were still on Larry Williams' throat, crushing it, when the saloon door exploded inward. Justina William stood there, silhouetted against fire glow, Big Tom cradled in her arms, the double barrel her father had used at Little Bighorn. 15 pounds of iron justice. 40 men held their breath. Someone was leaving Deadwood in a pine box. Question was, who deserved it more?
Hello, I wish you a wonderful, amazing 2026. If you enjoy old Western stories, then you're in the right place. Tell me where you're watching from, comment, and share these videos with friends and families. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, too. My team and I have something wonderful and free for you once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. We will share it in the community. You know, we go to great lengths to craft these stories, so your support means a lot to us. Join us and be a part of what we are building.
Before we dive into this story, let me give you some context about Deadwood in 1876. This wasn't some lawless free-for-all like Hollywood shows you. Deadwood was a boom town. Gold had been discovered in the Black Hills just 2 years earlier, and 5,000 people flooded in almost overnight. Here's what made it complicated. Deadwood was technically illegal. The entire area was Lakota territory under the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. The U.S. government hadn't officially sanctioned settlement there, which meant there was law, but it was flexible. Sheriffs existed, but they were often paid by whoever had the most gold. And blacksmiths, they were essential, not just for horseshoes. They made every metal tool the town needed: nails, hinges, wagon parts, mining equipment. A good blacksmith could name his price. A bad one? Well, a failed horseshoe wasn't just inconvenient, it could kill you. River crossings were especially dangerous. The Cheyenne River ran fast and cold with snowmelt. One loose shoe, your horse panics, you're in icy water wearing heavy boots and wool clothes. Drowning took minutes. So when this story talks about a horseshoe failure killing someone, that wasn't dramatic exaggeration. That was frontier reality. Your life depended on the quality of someone else's work. Now, let's talk about what happened when that work failed and a man spent 10 years letting revenge poison his soul.
Jimmy O'Brien's fist connected with Larry Williams' jaw for the third time, and the old blacksmith's knees finally buckled. The afternoon sun cut through the tobacco smoke of Dutch Henry's saloon in Deadwood, South Dakota, painting everything the color of old copper. 58 years of work in the forge hadn't prepared Larry for this. His hands, thick with calluses, scarred from 1,000 burns, strong enough to bend iron, couldn't defend against a man 40 years younger who'd spent a decade sharpening his rage into something lethal. "Get up," Jimmy said, not loud, didn't need to be. 40 men lined the walls of Dutch Henry's, and every one of them heard it clear as a church bell. "We ain't done." Larry tried, got his boots under him, pushed up from the sawdust floor, made it halfway before Jimmy's boot caught him in the ribs. Something cracked, sharp pain. The old man gasped, went down again. This was 1876, May, 3 weeks after Wild Bill Hickok rode into town, 2 months before he'd be shot in the back playing poker. But right now, at 2:47 in the afternoon, the only violence that mattered was happening in Dutch Henry's saloon, and nobody was stopping it. Jimmy O'Brien had waited 10 years for this. 10 years since a horseshoe failed during a river crossing. 10 years since his brother Colt drowned trying to save a panicked horse. 10 years blaming the blacksmith who'd rushed the job, who'd said it needed 30 minutes, but Jimmy had demanded it done in 10. Now Larry William was on his knees, blood running from his split lip, and Jimmy O'Brien was just getting started. "You remember my brother?" Jimmy asked. He circled Larry like a predator. "Colt O'Brien, 22 years old, drowned in the Cheyenne River because your horseshoe failed." Larry looked up, one eye already swelling shut. "I remember. Jimmy, I told you I needed more time. You told me it was ready. You lied, and Colt died. That's when the saloon door exploded inward. Justina William stood in the doorway, and the entire saloon forgot how to breathe. She was 29, built like her father. Broad shoulders, strong hands, dressed in leather work clothes, still stained with coal dust from the forge. Her blonde hair was tied back with rawhide. Her face was sun-darkened and hard, and cradled in her arms like a sleeping child was Big Tom. The shotgun had a reputation in Deadwood, double-barreled 10-gauge that Larry William had carried at Little Bighorn with Custer's supply train. 2 triggers, 2 shells, enough stopping power to drop a buffalo at 30 yards. Larry had killed 3 Lakota warriors with it in 15 seconds during a supply raid. Everyone in Deadwood knew the story. Everyone knew Big Tom didn't miss. Justina's eyes found her father crumpled on the floor, blood pooling beneath his head, hands twisted at wrong angles. Then her eyes found Jimmy O'Brien standing over him, knuckles split and bleeding. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The only sound was Larry's wet, rattling breathing. "Step away from him," Justina said. Her voice was flat, final. The voice of someone who'd already decided and was just explaining the decision. Jimmy turned, raised his hand slightly, but didn't step back, didn't smile either, just looked at her with those same cold eyes that had stared at her father. "Justina William, heard you could shoe a horse fast as any man in the Black Hills, didn't know you had teeth. I said step away. Or what? You shoot me in front of 40 witnesses?" Jimmy gestured to the crowd. "Sheriff Hayes is right there. Judge Tolliver, too. You pull that trigger, you'll hang, legal and proper. That help you, Daddy?" Justina worked Big Tom's hammers back. 2 clicks, loud as gunshots in the silence. "I'm counting to 3. Jimmy's faded. He'd seen that look before, during the border wars, in men who'd already made peace with dying and were just picking how to go. 1. 6 hours earlier, Justina had been at the forge, hammering out horseshoes for the Miller Ranch delivery. The rhythm was meditation. Heat the iron cherry red. 3 strikes to flatten, 2 to curve, quench in the water barrel, steam rising. Her hands moved like her father had taught her since she was 12 years old. Every piece matters. Every nail counts. A bad shoe can kill a horse. A dead horse can kill a rider. Larry William was the best blacksmith in the Dakota Territory. Everyone said so. His work was precise, careful, deliberate. He'd rather lose a customer than rush a job. "Metalwork doesn't forgive hurry," he always said. "Iron tells the truth about the hand that shaped it." Justina was 29 and unmarried, turned down 6 proposals because none of the men understood what the forge meant, what it cost, what it was worth. They wanted a wife who'd cook and clean and bear children. She wanted to work iron and build things that lasted longer than she would. Her father never pressured her, never said she should marry, never treated her different than he would have treated a son, just taught her everything he knew about metalwork, about business, about integrity, about how your reputation was built one honest job at a time and destroyed by one dishonest shortcut. Tommy Garrett had come running at 2:35, 14 years old and breathless. "Miss Justina, your pa, Dutch Henry's, Jimmy O'Brien." She didn't wait for complete sentences, dropped the hammer, ran to the shop office where Big Tom hung above her father's desk, checked both barrels, loaded, double-aught buckshot. Each shell held 9 lead balls the size of her thumbnail. Close range, it would cut a man in half. She'd known this was coming, had felt it in her bones for weeks. Jimmy O'Brien had been in Deadwood for 3 days, asking questions, drinking, watching the smithy, waiting for the right moment, the right audience. Now her father was bleeding on Dutch Henry's floor, and Justina was 3 seconds from making 40 men witnesses to a killing. 2. If this story's got its hooks in you, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about justice.
3. Jimmy stepped back, fast, hands visible. All right, take him, he's all yours. The fight drained out of the room like water from a broken barrel. 40 men who'd been frozen suddenly found reasons to look at their boots, their drinks, anywhere but at Justina's eyes. She moved to her father, Big Tom still trained on Jimmy, knelt beside him in the sawdust and blood. "Pa, can you hear me?" Larry's good eye opened, barely. Tried to hit him. "I know, Pa, I know you tried." She got her arm under his shoulders, tried to lift him. He was all bone and broken things, made a sound that wasn't human when she moved him. "Help me," Justina said to the room, to 40 men who'd watched her father get beaten. "Somebody help me." Nobody moved. She looked at them, really looked, saw ranch hands who'd bought horseshoes from her father for 20 years, saw Ben Coulter, whose daughter's wedding Larry had made the chapel hinges for, no charge, saw Sheriff Vernon Hayes, who owed Larry 3 months of unpaid smithing work, saw the fear in their faces, the shame, the relief that it wasn't them bleeding in the sawdust. And she understood. Jimmy O'Brien hadn't just beaten her father, he'd beaten the whole town, shown them what happened when you stood up to him, made them all complicit by forcing them to watch and do nothing. "Fine," Justina said, "I'll do it myself." She got Larry upright, half carried, half dragged him toward the door. It took everything she had. Big Tom swung awkward on its sling. Her father's blood soaked into her dress. Men parted to let them through. Didn't help, didn't meet her eyes. At the door, Justina stopped, turned, looked at Jimmy O'Brien standing at the bar, relaxed, confident, victorious. "This isn't over," she said. Jimmy smiled. "I think it is, darling." "No," Justina said, her voice cold as Black Hills winter. "It's not." She kicked the door open and carried her father into the afternoon sun, leaving silence and shame behind her.
Dr. Samuel Pritchard's surgery was 2 doors down from Dutch Henry's. Clean white building that stood out against Deadwood's mud and timber like a saint in a brothel. Justina kicked the door open, half carrying, half dragging her father. Big Tom swung awkward on its leather strap across her back. Doc Pritchard looked up from his desk, saw them, and his face went gray. "Jesus Christ, Justina, what happened?" "Jimmy O'Brien happened. Help him." Doc cleared the examination table with one sweep of his arm. Papers, instruments, everything crashed to the floor. Together they got Larry onto the table. His breathing was wrong, shallow, wet, rattling. Blood soaked through his shirt. Doc started cutting away the fabric. Justina stood in the corner, Big Tom still strapped to her back, watching. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline draining, reality setting in. "Broken ribs," Doc muttered, probing gently. 4, maybe 5. Left hand completely shattered. Looks like someone stomped on it deliberately. He listened to Larry's breathing with a stethoscope. Possible punctured lung, internal bleeding. Justina, he needs to get to a real hospital. Rapid City, maybe even Omaha. He's staying here. Then he might die here. He's staying here. Doc looked at her, saw something in her face that made him stop arguing. "All right, I'll do what I can." Justina watched him work, bandaging, splinting, setting bones. Her father faded in and out of consciousness. When he was awake, he kept saying the same thing. "My hands. Can't feel my hands." When Doc stepped away to wash blood from his fingers, he spoke quietly.
Even if he survives, Justina, those hands, he'll never work a forge again. The damage is too severe. Justina felt something crack inside her chest. Her father's hands, the hands that had taught her everything, the hands that had shaped iron for 40 years, the hands that had held her when her mother died of cholera, those hands, broken beyond repair by a man nursing a 10-year-old grudge. She finally set Big Tom down, sat in the chair beside the table, took her father's ruined hand gently in both of hers, and started planning.
Justina sat beside her father's bed until the sun went down. Doc Pritchard had done what he could, splinted the broken fingers, wrapped the ribs, stitched the gash above Larry's eye, but the damage was done. Larry's hands, those skilled hands that had shaped iron for 40 years, were ruined, swollen to twice their normal size, fingers bent at wrong angles even with the splints. When Larry finally woke, the first thing he said was, "Can't feel my fingers." Doc says the swelling needs to go down first. "Justina," his voice cracked, "tell me straight, will I work again?" She wanted to lie, wanted to give him hope, but her father had never lied to her, and she wouldn't lie to him. Doc says, probably not. Not the forge, anyway. Larry closed his eyes. A single tear ran down his weathered cheek into the pillow. 40 years, gone, ended in 7 minutes by a man who couldn't let go of an accident. "The smithy," Larry whispered, "everything we built, 3 generations. What happens now?" "I run it, same as I've been doing half the time anyway." "And Jimmy O'Brien?" Justina stood, walked to the window. Across the street, Dutch Henry's saloon was alive with noise, laughter, music, men celebrating like nothing had happened, like her father's career hadn't just been destroyed for entertainment. "He'll do this again," Justina said quietly. "Maybe not next week, maybe not next month, but someone else will owe him money or look at him wrong or remind him of something that hurt him once, and he'll break them too, because that's what men like Jimmy do. They spread their pain until everyone around them is bleeding." She turned from the window. Her father was watching her with his one good eye. "What are you thinking, girl?" Justina picked up Big Tom from where she'd leaned it against the wall, checked both barrels, still loaded. "I'm thinking some men need to be stopped before they stop themselves." "Justina!" "Get some rest, Pa. I've got evening chores to do." She walked out before he could argue. The choice Justina makes next will change everything. Hit subscribe, because what happens on Main Street at sundown is something you won't forget.
Wade Ketchum drew first. Stupid, overconfident, thought his reputation from the Kansas-Missouri border wars mattered. It didn't. Both barrels of Big Tom roared simultaneously. The sound rolled down Main Street like thunder. Wade Ketchum's chest simply ceased to exist. He flew backward 6 feet, hit the saloon wall, slid down, leaving a red smear. Dead before his brain registered the trigger pull. Justina dropped the shotgun. Smoking barrels hit the dirt. Her right hand went to her belt, pulled the 3-pound forge hammer. Ash handle worn smooth from years of use. Head blackened from 10,000 strikes on hot iron. Boone Harrelson charged from her left, Bowie knife gleaming. Former Confederate raider, killed 17 Union soldiers in night raids. Fast, experienced, deadly. Not fast enough. Justina step-side like she was dodging a skittish horse, muscle memory from years at the forge. Harrelson's momentum carried him past. She pivoted, brought the hammer down on his skull with the same force she used on red-hot steel. The sound was wet, final. Bone didn't resist like iron did. Harrelson dropped, twitched once, stopped moving. 2 down, 2 remain. Frank Dockery fired from the saloon porch. The bullet caught Justina's left shoulder, burned through leather and flesh. She grunted, didn't stop, closed the distance in 4 strides while Dockery tried to cock the hammer again. The forge hammer caught his gun hand. Every bone from wrist to fingertips shattered. The revolver fell. Dockery screamed, high, broken, inhuman. Justina's second swing caught his temple. He went down hard. 3 bodies in the street, blood pooling in the Dakota dust. 40 spectators pressed against storefronts, wanting to watch, but not wanting stray bullets. Someone's horse spooked, broke its tether, galloped away. Jimmy O'Brien knelt in Dutch Henry's doorway, clutching his left side where buckshot from Big Tom's initial blast had torn through. Not fatal, close though. Blood seeped between his fingers. Justina walked toward him, reloaded Big Tom as she moved. 2 fresh shells, snapped it closed. The sound echoed like a coffin lid. She stopped 5 feet away, raised the shotgun, both barrels aimed at his face.
Justina's finger found the trigger. 1 pound of pressure. That's all it would take. 2 shells. Jimmy O'Brien's head would vanish. Justice. Clean. Final. Deserved. She could feel it, the rightness of it. This man had destroyed her father's hands, ended his career, broken him in front of the whole town, had nursed hatred for 10 years over an accident, had chosen cruelty when he could have chosen forgiveness. He deserved this, earned it. Nobody could argue otherwise. Her finger tightened. But then she heard her father's voice. Not from now, from years ago. She was 16, working the forge, had ruined an expensive bridal fitting by rushing. She'd been furious at herself, wanted to throw the whole piece in the scrap heap. Her father had stopped her. Every piece of iron can be reforged, Justina. Even broken things can be remade into something useful. That's the blacksmith's way. We don't destroy, we transform. Heat, hammer, reshape. Nothing's beyond saving if you're willing to do the work. Justina, Dr. Pritchard's voice cut through her thoughts. He stood at the edge of the street, hands visible, careful. Justina, don't. She didn't lower the shotgun, didn't take her eyes off Jimmy. Why not? Because your father's alive. Because killing him doesn't undo what happened. Because this, he gestured at the 3 bodies, this is already more than enough. It's not justice. Maybe not, but it's mercy, and mercy takes more strength than killing. Your father would tell you the same thing. Jimmy O'Brien looked up at her, blood on his lips, fear in his eyes for the first time. No more smirking, no more confidence. Just a man staring at death and understanding he earned it. Do it, he whispered. I got nothing left anyway. Colt's still dead. Your daddy's still broken. Just finish it. Justina stood there with Big Tom aimed at his face and the weight of the choice pressing down on her soul. Pulled a trigger. Justice. Satisfaction. One less monster in the world. Lower the gun. Mercy, uncertainty, the hardest thing she'd ever done. She chose. Justina lowered Big Tom. No, she said, you're going to live with this. Jimmy blinked, confused, expecting the bullet that didn't come. You're going to work our forge, Justina continued. Her voice was iron. 2 years, every day, you're going to learn every shoe, every nail, every piece my father ever made. You're going to understand the weight of the work before you judge the worker. And if you run, if you refuse, if you fail, I find you and finish this. We clear? Jimmy nodded. Couldn't speak, just nodded and clutched his bleeding side and looked at her like she was something he couldn't comprehend. Good. Doc, patch him up. He starts tomorrow. 18 months later, Jimmy O'Brien crafted a perfect horseshoe. Justina watched him work, the concentration, the care, the precision her father had always demanded. Jimmy's hands shook after 12-hour days at the forge, just like Larry's used to. One night he broke down at the anvil.
I didn't know. Christ, I didn't know how hard, how careful you have to be. Your father didn't kill Colt. I did. I rushed him. I demanded 10 minutes when he said 30. I killed my own brother. Justina didn't comfort him. Now you know. 6 more months. Larry never regained full use of his hands, died 5 years later, peaceful, with the horseshoe Jimmy crafted on his final day hanging above his bed. Perfect, flawless. Justina ran the smithy for 40 more years, took apprentices, taught them the craft, always told them about the rushed horseshoe and the 2 men it destroyed. When asked if she'd made the right choice, she said, "I don't know, but killing him would have been easier, and easy isn't the same as right." On quiet nights, she wondered, did Jimmy truly change, or just learn to live with guilt? Would her father be alive if she'd pulled the trigger? No answers, just the endless ring of hammer on anvil, transforming broken pieces into something that might hold weight. Justice or mercy? Which one would you have chosen? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe for more tales from the frontier, where right and wrong weren't always clear, and survival meant more than just staying alive.
If you enjoyed this latest story on life in the old Wild West, then I'm sure you will love the next one coming up. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on time. Did I tell you we post new, exciting, heartwarming stories daily? Subscribe now to join us so you won't miss any new stories.